You're serving your people. You've established certain specializations in your compassionate care and support of others. Today, I'm going to share with you secrets to dealing with victims of psychopaths in your practice. Expanding your practice can be as easy as placing a flyer in your waiting room, adding a line to your business profile, or taking a certification for a particular malady or modality. If your schedule is full, you might not feel like it's necessary to expand your therapeutic practice. But I will tell you this, if your schedule is full, you could probably do better. And it's probably time to raise your prices. As you expand your reach, quantity, and quality of your services, you need to raise your prices accordingly. Doing so keeps you faithful to your calling and allows the universe to take your quality of service and life to the next level. Now, keep in mind that expanding your practice to invite victims of psychopaths to seek out you for help and support, this is not as wide or profitable a market segment as, say, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. But some of the same modalities are used for victims of psychopaths, for they do suffer from PTSD. Serving victims of psychopaths is not for the weak or faint of heart. It takes a lot of strength and fortitude to deal with any fallout that you might be exposed to by offering support to the psychopath victim, just as much or more so than availing your services to victims of physical violence. Now, if you serve victims of physical violence, you know there's a good chance that you have had to intervene in ways where you and or your practice may have been at risk of being attacked by the violent offender. So you must have your affairs in order and have the strength necessary to help someone embroiled in these unique, challenging, and potentially dangerous situations. Number 1, be keenly aware. You may have been exposed to psychopathy unawares, so it's imperative that you're understanding something about predatory psychopaths who might be seeking to exploit you and your services, and possibly even use you as an instrument to further victimize your client or patient. Let's say you offer couples counseling and you have a couple that has come in searching for assistance with their relationship. A terribly psychopathically abused victim may be able to get access to your services by negotiating with his or her psychopath. Now, this is a huge step for the victim to be able to get access to someone like you outside of this risky relationship, but the victim will not be able to communicate with you like he or she might if they were in a normal relationship. It's up to you as the coach, counselor, or therapist to find ways to communicate with the potential victim without the predatory psychopath having a clue. And believe me, they are not stupid. They could have this victim wired or are recording any communication they might have while the psycho is not around. So it's up to you to pay very close attention with any moment of private time you spend with the victim. It might look like this. The psychopath excuses him or herself for a moment, leaving you alone with the victim for a few moments. So you ask the victim how things are going, and he or she will respond with how good things are going. But if you pay very close attention and watch his or her eyes, you will see a look of fear or terror that is incongruent with the words he or she is speaking. Be careful what you say and how you say it from that point forward, because there's a 99% chance of the room or your client being bugged. Number 2, play along. If you are a certified psychopath victims coach, you know how to find the signs and how to play along, saying the right things with the right voice inflections so as not to raise any red flags to the psychopath that you are on to him or her. If you are not skilled in this area, do not try to prolong the covert, incongruent communication, because the psychopath may be able to sense something is up after he or she listens to the playback of the recording. This could potentially put your victim or client at greater risk of further psychopathic abuse. Once you have reasonably identified your client as a potential psychopath victim, the key is to play along with the psychopath while you start getting things set up to better serve your potential victim or client. Even if your client's abuser is not a psychopath, he or she is more than likely in a toxic relationship, and it still may be extremely dangerous. So when potentially dealing with a psychopath, it's imperative that your note-taking and record-keeping of your sessions are thorough and accurate while you play along as you allow the psychopath to think he or she is running the show. See, there's a good chance that the psychopath will assure you that there's no serious problems to be addressed in the relationship. He or she will present you with a laundry list of surface problems he or she has invented for you to focus your efforts on. And if the psychopath lets you think serious problems do exist, they will be focused on the victim partner. In this case, the psychopath will be presented as being victimized by the victim, and the victim will play along, letting the psychopath put him or her down, as you can offer some support for these illusionary sleights of hand while you are preparing for a greater degree of assistance to offer the real victim in the relationship. It's easy to see how crazy making this can be, but trust me, the real victim here is depending on you for some hope of compassion, help, and you might be his or her only hope for escape from this horrific situation. Number 3, remain emotionally protected. Now, if you have experience in crisis counseling or intervention, you probably already have these skills necessary to remain disassociated from the victim's pain and suffering, even if it's not expressed. And you'll be able to resist the magnetic charm and manipulation tactics and other emotional weapons wielded by the psychopath. This couple will be challenging for you to deal with. You can only do what you can do, so do what you can without outing yourself or beating yourself up, putting yourself at risk, or getting emotionally attached to these people or any perceived or preferred outcome. If you are able to have the energy and wherewithal to serve your other clients, you must not lose yourself in the drama of this couple. Number 4, cautiously get backup. Do not expect to be the sole resource for this couple. This is going to be very extremely complicated in the unraveling of this potentially dangerous situation. If you are not thoroughly experienced in how to deal with a psychopath, seek out someone in your field who has this experience, someone you can confide in and get third-party advice from. Maybe even have someone join you in the sessions. Proceed with caution, because you cannot trust any professional person who does not possess the skills necessary to deal with a predatory psychopath, or to see that the psychopath victim is adequately cared for, protected, and tended to appropriately in the unraveling of this psycho relationship. Number 5, never underestimate the power of a psychopath. Do not call 911 or law enforcement unless you know for a fact that the person you are communicating with has experience with psychopathy and psychopath victims. Predatory psychopaths can be very powerfully persuasive, and even in the face of facing threats of legal ramifications or criminal charges, this kind of threat might be intimidating for you and me, but not the psychopath. He or she believes that they're above the law, and predatory psychopaths believe that they can con and manipulate anyone to do their bidding. And it's shocking at how often this is true. More damage has been done to victims of psychopaths with the best intentions of unqualified people trying to do the best they can to help their clients, including law enforcement, which is generally unqualified or unprepared to deal with a highly proficient psychopath. If you feel like you might be in over your head, refer the couple to someone else in your field who can help step through this process of getting the victim to a safe and secure environment. Number 6, Do not victimize the victim even more. Moving too quickly or not having adequate compassion and understanding for the unfortunate circumstances of the psychopath victim can add secondary psychopathic abuse. In fact, the psychopath is counting on this happening to the victim and has set things in motion to assure the secondary abuse is executed to further inflict the victim in their absence. Do not challenge a victim of predatory psychopaths as you would a normal person. I mean, this means you don't encourage or challenge them by saying something like, "Why don't you just leave? Just man up and do what you got to do. Call the cops. Just get over it. Let's kick his ass." Almost anything that you might say to any normal person will send this victim into a destructive whirlpool, adding to the pain and suffering they've already endured. The emotional crux of being victimized by a predatory psychopath cannot be compared to battered wife syndrome or even Stockholm syndrome. It doesn't even hold a candle to the level of mind-warping exploitation the victim has been subject to. And I know, if you've had no experience with this type of abuse, it sounds like BS. But nothing can be further from the truth. And now how do I know? Because there was a time when I thought so. Early in my practice, I was a religious counselor, and I can tell you, there was no way in hell that I thought there could be a really evil person, devoid of any sense of humanity, just out there to exploit and victimize people. I mean, no way. I had seen every variety of dregs of society and criminal element turn their lives around. So I was convinced that there was no one who was beyond salvation or redemption. And here's the bad part. When someone would come into my office and claim that they were being victimized by an evil person, I didn't believe them. It sounded too bizarre to be true. I mean, you hear about psychopaths in the media. Serial killers who go on rampages, those who walk seamlessly among us, yet do all these horrific things, killing and eating people without as much as a wince. No guilt, no remorse, and not a care for the victim or who they might be leaving behind. Human monsters. But I never met one. And when we think about psychopaths, that's the image that we're handed by Hollywood and the news, even though this type of psychopath is extremely rare and accounts for about 1 in 10,000 psychos. Psychopathy is a spectrum, and on one end of the scale is a perfectly normal member of the community who could be your next door neighbor, who only expresses his or her psychopathy by maybe swerving to hit your dog if it wandered out into the street as he or she was driving by. On the other end of the spectrum are the serial killers we hear so much about. Predatory psychopaths are closer to that end of the spectrum, but not that far. They may be capable of murder, but they're less likely to kill you. Though they may if they felt there was no other option, and are probably not going to do the killing themselves. If they want someone to die, chances are they will find someone who they may manipulate into doing the dirty work for them. Proficient predatory psychopaths have a unique set of persuasive skills and are much more likely to make victims feel so badly about themselves that they take their own lives. Problem solved. And no crime was committed because the person they wanted to take care of took care of the problem themselves, committing suicide. Or maybe they died of natural causes. Psychopaths also hold important positions in our society. I mean, who else is going to be more qualified to work for the FBI, CIA, or in the military in positions that normal people are less likely to succeed in? Psychopaths make the best government agents, spies, special forces, drill sergeants, snipers, interrogators, judges, and politicians. You will find them thriving in Washington, D.C., Hollywood, and on Wall Street. They are the take-no-prisoner CEOs, award-winning attorneys, and media personalities. You also find that they make great policemen, surgeons, chefs, and religious leaders. And just for the record, in case you didn't know, in the criminal justice system, diagnosed psychopaths receive lighter sentences than their neurotypical citizens are charged with the same crimes. Now, I'll let you ponder that one for a while. We do need them, even if they tend to fall into the darkness and find themselves at odds with the law. Our society operates better when we have our psychopaths strategically positioned throughout the system. There are jobs where their particular skill sets are invaluable in function and form. But when you have these predatory loose cannon psychos milling about the general population, seeking whom they might devour, that's when we have troubles. And the poor victims, they were normal people, just like you and me, who were in the wrong place at the wrong time when they showed up on the psycho's radar. Blip! These were such nice people. Those are the ones they target the most. They're kind, compassionate, trustworthy, upstanding men and women, often in positions of servitude, who did not see this coming. And who would? You would not think that any such thing would be possible if you didn't have experience. And if someone tried to warn you about it, or if you heard someone else's story about their entanglement with a predatory psychopath, you wouldn't believe it. And if you did, you would think, well, certainly that could never happen to me. I mean, I'm smart and resourceful. And these victims are demoralized, desensitized, and every part of their brain has been scrubbed by the psychopath. I mean, you have no idea unless this happened to you. The mind is an incredible machine. And when we're not getting our way, we're not getting what we want, we can imagine all kinds of things and overreact to skirt responsibility or find a way out of an unpleasant situation that we might have gotten ourselves into. And that's what I thought I was dealing with back in the day when I would take these poor, defenseless Christians and throw them right back into the hungry lion's den with a nonchalant, Jesus loves you. God would never give you more than you can handle. You pray about it, and I'll pray with you. All things work together for good for those who love God. God bless you. But in my ignorance and unbelief, I sent these poor souls back for more. I just could not allow myself to believe that an understanding, God-fearing, tithe-paying member of the church could be guilty of such depravity and exploitation of an innocent soul. And I stand corrected, guilty, and regretful for not knowing, for not better serving those who trusted me, whom I was entrusted with the care and well-being of. But I know now, and I know I can make a difference. This leads me to number 7. Forgive yourself. You will never know how you may have fallen short in the sincere performance of your craft and commitment in helping others until you know. And when you do, please do not judge yourself harshly, because you and any of us, we only know what we know, and we're doing the best we can based on the information that we have at any given time. If you find yourself in this situation, please seek to cut yourself some slack and forgive yourself. Do not let yourself fall into second guessing or beating yourself up unmercifully. You have survived this experience to better prepare you in the now. Today, it's all about the now. Ask yourself, how can I take what I've learned from the past, the good and the bad, and turn it into valuable work in the now? Then go about doing that. So we've talked about couples coming into your practice, but I haven't warned you about the psychopath who will come into your practice soliciting your services alone just to exploit you and set you up for the kill. Now be aware that there is no intake firewall that is so impenetrable for the psychopath. They will likely come in with a referral from someone else, and they will be your most outstanding client. Your files will be filled with astounding stories of overcoming challenges as you start personal, professional, and spiritual growth that is truly impressive. You will use his or her stories to tell your other clients what is possible because You were there. You witnessed it with your own eyes, or at least you thought you did. But what was really happening was the psychopath was executing his long con for you. Why? The same basic reason that any psychopath does anything. Because he wants something you can provide. And hopefully it's not your home, family, or your practice. It could very well be that the psychopath knows that sooner or later he or she will find him or herself in a compromising position where someone in a revered position such as yours can go to bat for him or her. And you might be able to persuade someone about what a great person he or she is, either to a new mark, a questioning victim, a spouse, family member, or even to a jury. And when the truth comes out, no one would judge you, even though you might feel embarrassed or ashamed because you've been conned by a predatory psychopath. But you were just doing your job to the best of your ability. And your star client that you've been raving about, well, sometimes things are just not as they appear to be. So do your part. Be keenly aware and protect yourself from being taken advantage of by a predatory psychopath. And if you want to help others, you might consider becoming a certified psychopath victims coach. Because, Lord knows, they need someone like you. If you feel like you can help them, then certainly pursue that venue. This can be a great service to your community and a greater way to expand your practice by serving victims of psychopaths. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is David M. Masters, and you can find out more about me at davidmmasters.com. God bless.
Hello, my name is Rosa M. Luna. I am a curandera healer. I help people expand their therapeutic practices by integrating simple ancient healing techniques from curandero therapy to their existing practice. And today, I'm going to introduce you to something that you might not have heard of. Have you heard about healing with an egg? It might sound silly, but have you heard of the evil eye? If some of your friends are Mexican, then chances are you have heard of it. Today, I will activate you for Curando con un Huevo, healing with an egg. You can add this to your current practice. My mother was a curandera healer, and I learned from her, and now I will activate you. I learned all my healings from my mother, who in our family had had generations and generations of curandera healers on my mother's side, and on my father's side, they were Apache shaman. When we moved to the United States, the children of my mother did not experience the one-on-one learning experience of the curandero's original healings as I did. However, I worked with my mother and assisted her in many healings. She died young in a car accident. I have taught most of my family who would like to continue the family tradition of healing others, and other friends who wanted to be healers as well. I also learned to add to my bag of tools for healing Reiki. It added a more powerful energy in which was like adding another spice to an already good healing meal. I remember my mom always had visitors around the house. Our living room was full of people wanting to take a turn talking to my mom. She would accept donations, and if people could not pay, she accepted food, vegetables, flowers, homemade gifts, sweet bread, freshly made tortillas. Some of her girlfriends, who we called comadres, would come and cook for us, or clean the house in exchange for a healing. I myself do that now as well. I have a healing office and people come to a healing. I charge a flat rate. My house is especially full during this harvest time. I love getting fresh fruit from the season. Peaches, pears, tomatoes, enough to can, fresh picked Bing cherries, my favorite. I especially love freshly picked flowers. I place them in the healing room to enjoy the fragrance and to heal even the worry. The evil eye is a very old Mexican superstition curse or legend originating in ancient times and from many countries. It is believed to be cast by a person with negative intentions or a negative and envious glare, usually to give a person when one is unaware. The evil eye is venomous. It's an impact from a bad intentioned person whose emotions of jealousy and envy from those who are around us. Many observant believers avoid talking about the valuable items that they own, for they could be stolen or lost, or talk about the good luck that they had come to them, in particular their children, for fear that their children could be cursed. How do you know if you have the evil eye? The test used to confirm of the evil eye has been cast is performed by placing a drop of olive oil in a glass of water, generally the water that has been blessed by the healer, of course. Under normal conditions, the olive oil would float, but if the olive oil sinks, then the evil eye has been cast. Sometimes you may get severe headaches. The evil eye could make your headache very, very painful, and you'd feel like throwing up, and the light would hurt your eyes. If you're a therapist who would like to learn this type of healing, I would like to activate you in this ability to heal using the egg, in which, believe it or not, can heal. You will be able to heal anyone with just your loving and love for others. Let's start the meditation. Ready? Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in. Breathe out. Like you're blowing out your candles from your birthday cake. Blow hard. Good job. Try it again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now on this last breath, as you breathe in, take another deep breath and hold your breath to the count of 6 in your mind. Breathe out. Blowing out your birthday candles. Start activation meditation now. Keep your eyes closed. Ready? I would like to remind you that you're not alone in doing this. Let's activate you. Let's invite your angels and your spirit guides. I would like to remind you that you're a constant gatherer of experience and information and knowledge. This is a fulfillment of joy that will be awoken within you. You'll be awakened with the potential of awareness and powerfulness, for you are the only one who holds the key to this activation. Now you're ready to heal with an egg. Take another deep breath. Count to the count of 6 in your mind. And blow out the birthday candles. Are we ready to do this? Okay, first, gather an egg that's in your refrigerator. That's where you keep them, right? Of course you do. As a Reiki master, I place the Reiki symbols on the egg and request the egg to remove the pain, the negative energies, negative entities, and I thank the egg for giving us their healing and life. Have the client take 3 deep breaths, and on the last breath, have them hold their breath for the count of 6 in their mind. Let the breath out as if you're blowing your birthday candles on your birthday cake. Have a person close their eyes and relax their breathing. Move the egg in a clockwise motion around the head, making sure you touch the egg inside your ears, around your lips, over your eyes, and the back of your scalp, and down the spine. If it's a headache, stay on the area of pain for a good 3 minutes or more. If the headache has not gotten better, or if the pain has not lessened, stay longer until the headache pain has lessened more, or it's gone. Roll the egg across the top of your chest, then move into a swirling motion up and down the arms, and have the client hold the eggs on each of their hands for as long as a healer feels it should be held. Rub the egg on the 3rd eye, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, the solar plex, and the 2nd chakra. For the next step, have the client place and hold the egg on their first chakra, which is located between their thighs. Hold it until the healer says you're done. Roll the egg down one leg and the other leg. And roll the egg on the heels of the foot and the bottom of the foot. Carefully, sometimes at this point, the egg will explode. Then you are done. Break the egg in a clear glass of water. If healer's a reader, read the egg. After reading the egg, sprinkle salt over the glass as the healer visualizes the white light, filling every part of the body with positive, loving, wonderful, life-giving energy. After doing this, thank the egg for giving us its life, and you can throw the egg into the toilet and flush it. Or, if earth is available, dig a little hole in the ground and give the egg back to the earth, burying it, and as you do, thank the egg and source as well. Our higher self, God, Goddess, as we know them, are angels and spirit guides for their help. Congratulations! You are now activated to curar con un huevo, healing with the egg. Adding a second language to your energy or therapeutic practice. Wanting to expand your practice to reach more people and maybe make more profits? It's not a bad idea. If you speak another language, it can help to expand your practice while you enjoy that extra opportunities to heal from doing so. Adding a second language to your service expands your practice and reaches out to more of the population. You will want to do some market research because it's not unusual for people who speak different languages to desire a different menu of services. For instance, many Latinos are attracted to your curandera barrida de huevo practice of energy sweeping your clients with an egg. It's a cultural thing. It's something that we all grew up with, and it's hard to find in today's alternative healing marketplace. Since I already authorized you to add this to your energy or therapeutic practice, you can easily expand your practice to appeal to the Spanish-speaking community. Of course, you will need to learn how to speak Spanish, or have someone in your office that can speak Spanish frequently to keep those clients on board. And you have to really know Spanish well. So once you have figured out what alternative language you will be adding to your practice, you will need to do some marketing to let your new potential customers that you are offering to cater to their specialized needs. Did you know that 20% of businesses believe in multilingual marketing? You will see the best bang for your buck by marketing online through your branded website and social media, like Facebook. Facebook has a good pay-to-play advertising program where you can easily market to your specific target audience. There are also other free sites where you can promote your second language offerings, such as Craigslist.org. A little creativity here and there can easily maximize your marketing efforts online. Earning more in your practice and extending your offerings could change your personal world as well. The majority of business on the World Wide Web, including online stores and other marketing materials, use English only because it's the most popular language on the internet. Even though English is the most used language on the internet, Spanish is the second most used in the United States of America. What is your multilingual marketing strategy for multiplying your productions and your products? It may be difficult to determine because it involves using more than one language in your location. There are many Vietnamese people in our area, so in our market approach, it would include translating all the content into Spanish and Vietnamese, which is a language that is pretty much derived from Chinese. This marketing strategy involves a professional translation. A content considered needs to be evaluated due to the difference between the cultures and people. In this way, your multilingual strategy will gain a competitive edge and reach your target customers. You will have to change your website as well, implementing both languages, which will give you the ability to reach out to other countries who use these languages. That means you can heal and serve more people, which means more revenue. This too will mean you will need to provide more bilingual workers once the market starts speeding. Since you are a professional in the therapeutic science, you are well versed in various modalities of healing that you can probably adapt to offering your services over the internet by using any of the online video communication services such as Skype or Zoom. This can have a huge impact on your practice. Most people who are bilingual speak their native language. Even though they speak English, most people prefer to communicate in their native tongue. I too feel more comfortable when speaking my native language. Even though I speak English, I feel I can be better understood if I am wanting something in particular. I will definitely come back and spread the word about this establishment onto my friends, especially if the staff is nice and very helpful. You can also use discounts to entice new second language customers to stop by and check you out. As part of the market strategy, there's nothing wrong with cutting back or cutting down on prices. Cut back on some services, and if you can afford it, give away something or have a sale on products that are not really selling very well. When you discount certain services, it can help to attract new clients. While you hone in on your skills and becoming more experienced as you get people to take advantage of your services, you may not have done so prior to announcing your discount offer. How about getting a healing if you buy two for the same price and another one for 50% off for the next healing session? When I used to have a 3-day retreat, I charged $150 each person a day. I provided sleeping quarters for those who made early arrangements, but if you bought food to share, I deducted $25. This helped to feed more people during the break times. I would include breakfast if people showed up an hour early and helped set up so I could start early or on time. As the CEO of your own therapeutic practice, you could use your imagination. You can grow your practice and profits. When your practice appeals to a larger population, you will see an increase in traffic on your website from different cities or regions in your home website. Continue to update the website in the languages that you have started with. This will increase and continue to increase as more of your pages continue to be updated in original languages that you set them up with. Your approach to the website will increase more than 20% quickly, which means greater profits. If you continue to go international and will continue translating your website, it is very much cost effective than most anything else you could do to increase your market share. Raise your price. It's common among those who have dedicated their lives in the service to others to charge very little or even nothing at all for their services. This is why therapeutic practitioners are unable to survive on their own because of undercharging. You need to realize that if you are to help heal others using your training, gifts, and abilities, you need to allow yourself to be paid for all the services that you provide. You may have forgotten that as part of your training, you understood that energetically, healing requires payment up front before you heal your clients. It really doesn't work as well without a payment or an exchange. For example, now that Reiki is being offered as patient support services in hospitals, Reiki practitioners are paid by the patient in a roundabout way. The patient has insurance, the insurance pays the hospital, and the hospital pays the Reiki practitioner. In this roundabout way, the patient is still paying the Reiki practitioner even though the money is routed through the hospital, which is actually paying the energy healers in advance of their being paid by the insurance company. I have heard some people claim that insurance actually blocks certain types of healings, and there are healers and therapists who do not accept insurance for this, as well as many other reasons. Whatever the case, this is something you have worked out for your practice. Will you or can you accept insurance or run a strictly cash-only practice? When a client comes to you for a healing, you must be paid first. My mother always made sure that she was paid before healing anyone. Note that they would sign basically in blood. Not actually in blood. But it really meant something to sign IOU for my mom. Plus, I think there was a bit of a fear of what might happen if they did not pay as promised. Not that my mom would ever put a curse on anybody, but there was still a cultural fear that something bad might happen if anyone didn't pay for their healing, and there was plenty of legendary stories and myths about the poor souls who tried to get one over a healer by not paying. My mother also accepted many other kinds and forms of payment. Many of her clients were modest migrant workers who could not afford to go to a doctor or a hospital, so she would let them pay energetically in other forms other than cash. They would pay in fresh fruits, vegetables, or in exchange for labor, but they paid in advance if they were able, otherwise the dreaded IOU. All of this to say, the rule is to follow is to charge your client upfront before you engage in healing to ensure that there is an equal energetic exchange, which creates a balance in spiritual healing. Energy workers of all kinds tend to undercharge for their healing services. It wasn't that long ago that it would cost $20,000 to become a Reiki master and take 3 years of study and practice. I practiced under Diane Steen, who pretty much destroyed the high-priced Reiki training that was only available at the time to the elite. Diane Steen attuned groups of Reiki students in weekend crash courses at a low cost. That led to bargain price Reiki training all over the world. Because Reiki masters are not paying high prices for their training, they feel uneasy about charging higher prices for their services. It's like saying, how could I charge a high price if I didn't pay a high price? But what are you forgetting to consider is that it is very likely that what you paid for Reiki training is more the same than you might think. For instance, someone who is rich, $20,000 is a reasonable cost for a pay for the right to open their own energy healing practice. But think about it. Let's say you only spend $1,000 for your master training. It is highly likely that you spend far more in comparison for the training than the rich person, because that $1,000 came at far more sacrifice to you than $20,000 felt like letting go for a wealthy person. So forget about it. That excuse doesn't work anymore. So forget about it and let it go. But there's still your low self-esteem or imposed lack of worthiness. You were probably raised to believe that you are not worth much, and so you price your healing services accordingly. Most of us who are not from wealthy families have been conditioned by our parents or our communities not to expect too much, not to want too much, because reality indicates that you will be stuck living a modest life, where you work very hard for very little, trying just to make a living as best you can. If you don't expect too much, you cannot be too disappointed, and you are less likely to suffer from wanting more than you deserve. I know how it goes, but you have to let go of that. You have to let go of that too, because even though your body is worth less than $600 in raw materials, if you add the fact that you have a direct connection with God source energy, that you are a form of God living his life for the pure joy of being here to enjoy all of creation, you are royalty. But you have to step out of your poverty and into your royalty. You have a special gift or therapeutic practice that is not Kmart priced. You are a royal healing worker or consultant with an amazing ability to affect change in others. So raise your price accordingly whenever you are charging now. Double it. If the bottom doesn't fall out of your therapeutic practice, double it again and keep doubling it until no one wants to pay anymore. Then you keep that high price and offer a discount to the highest lower price that your clients are willing to pay. This is your sweet spot. Next year, double your price again and see what happens, and let the universe adjust your pay, just in case God thinks it's time you got a raise for all the good work you do. If you don't do it, you will never know if you were ready for a raise or not. Plus, You're also going to expand your therapeutic practice so you can even make more money. You're going to add the ancient curandera barrida de huevo, healing with an egg practice, of energy sweeping your client with an egg. And you're now considering of expanding your marketplace by adding a second or third language to your Reiki practice. Now you're ready to grow your potential and allow yourself to have more prosperity and abundance. God bless you as you increase your potential to do your best good for the world. And if you need more information, you can contact me, Rosa M. Luna, at rosamluna.com. Thank you and God bless.
Hi, my name is David, and I'm here to talk to you about the naked truth of selling for practitioners. First of all, I guess I should introduce myself and tell you a little bit about why we're at where we are and why it makes sense. So I'm on the shore of Lake Quinault, Washington State. Earlier today, my dog River and I hiked about 4 miles over there. I'll show you exactly what you see from where I'm at. If you look out there, you see that shoreline across the lake over there? We did about 1 mile of the shoreline and back up into the woods and back down. So it ended up being about 4 miles total. And you might wonder why that's important. Well, because, first of all, I'm shooting live and I'm in the middle of nowhere. It's important to understand where I'm at because you might hear some noises, birds. My dog, River, might wake up. She's right down here. There we go. You probably can see her now. She's out cold because we had a nice long hike. Now, again, it is what it is, but it's all important for the discussion of selling for a practitioner. Because here I am talking about things that don't seem to coincide or line up with sales. But they really do. And I'm not sure if it makes sense to you, but I hope to explain it well over the next course of the 20 minutes or so. I'll start off with telling you about my history in sales. So I've been doing sales for about 20 years. I'm 50, so I started about 30. And when I started in sales, it was more of a lark, so to speak. I was not a fan of sales. I thought that salespeople were dirty and slimy. They pushed products or services that people did not need in order to make sure that they got their income. That was my personal perception. I did not want to be one of those people. I was a technician. I fixed things. I help people make their stuff work better. And somebody telling me that I needed to learn how to sell just didn't work for me at all. In fact, it made me angry when they said I should sell because I was violently opposed to the concept of pushing an idea or product or service on somebody for my gain. It just didn't work for me. So it was a rough transition. Now I sell products and services every day. I also help train and coach salespeople on a regular basis. But that's because I've changed and my perception of sales is different than it used to be. The first thing I think I would like to talk about is customers and what they want from us, from our clients and our prospects. a lot of times people come to a person who has a skill or service, and in this case we're talking about practitioners, and they think they know what they need. They have I need some therapy in this, I need some energy here, I need you to help me through this pain or to get through a process. And that's what they think. And they're not wrong. They're not. But they're not wholly understanding all that we can offer them. So first of all, I would like you to think about that your customers and clients want you to provide more to them than they think they know, than they think they need. If you think about it in some terms of a more mundane kind of services, think about an auto repair shop, for example. And do we need brakes? So you come into the shop, my brakes are making noise. Great. So do you want them to just come in there and take what your word for it and just fix your brakes? No, not really. That's not really the best for you as a customer, a client. It's not best for them to just take your word and do what you tell them to do. They are the professionals, correct? And these people work on vehicles every day. They repair your people's automobiles all the time. So they might have some insights and some knowledge about what's going on with your vehicle that you don't. And I know, for me, that if I do take my vehicle to a shop and say, hey, I want you to fix this, I expect them to dive in a little bit deeper than what I know, because I'm not the expert. I don't know anything. They can tell me, hey, yes, your breakers are making noise, but really, they're just being noisy because they got some dust on them, for example, or that they're worn out and need to be replaced. But I'd like to have that conversation. So if I'm expecting that, and I assume you are, from somebody else who's providing me a good or a service, if I'm expecting them to use their expertise to tell me what's really going on, then why wouldn't your customers be expecting the same from you? They're looking for the complete picture. They really are. They're looking for you as a practitioner to say, yes, this is going on, but really, that's a symptom of a situation that we need to take care of deeper, that we need to address in a different way. Customers need you to help them. They're looking for something beyond what they know, or they wouldn't be in your office or in your clinic. They wouldn't be asking you for help. They need that from you. And if you're not providing it, I gotta ask why. Because, to be honest, that's what we do. We provide solutions and help beyond our clients' understanding of what's going on. The other things you also need to understand is that your clients actually want you to succeed. They are hoping, praying, and investing their energy into your practice. They show up to your door. They come to you or schedule it so you come to them. And they want you to be successful so you can continue to do that. If they didn't care, if it didn't matter to them, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't invest their time or energy or their resources into you. So, being really clear, our clients really want us to be there for them on a regular basis and help them through their problems, challenges, and issues. The only way we can do that is by being the professionals we say that we are. So it's really important that we offer more than just, hey, you said your back hurts, or you said your energy is off. let me throw a Band-Aid on it and move on. We cannot do that. So it's important we stop thinking about it, and I mean sales, and we start thinking about solutions. Long-term solutions that help our customers and our clients get to a place where they want to be. And we want to think about helping them and not thinking about sales, because sales is irrelevant. I mean, it is. Sales is irrelevant in what we're doing anymore. Not worth it. We don't talk about it. It's not even thinking we want to think about. What we want to think about is providing value and good service and experience to our customers that they find provides them with what they're looking for. I was thinking about this, and it really rings true in this context. One of my first sales trainers, somebody who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and he's passed away, but he was probably the wisest man I ever met. This man had been shot in the back with a shotgun when he was younger. He was a boxer at some point in time. And through his life, he helped found a franchise organization and some other things. But when he talked to me about sales, he talked to me like this. He said, David, there's a person we're going to coach today. I'm going to give you the phone. Her name is Philippa. She lives out here in this town, and she can't find a way to progress through offering the services she can offer with her customers. And I'd like you to help her with that. So I did. And what he provided me with, as far as knowledge and as far as context for that, was, for me, as a person who thought sales was kind of evil, was mind-breaking, honestly. My mental synapses just went, what? So what he said to me was, think about this. He asked me if I had ever had a dog, and I do. I love dogs. He said, now, if you want a dog or a puppy, he's talking mainly about puppies, to come to you, what do you do? And I was like, well, if I'd hold out some food or something that they valued, treats, toys, whatever, and entice them and ask them to come to me. Ask them to come to me. And he said, well, what would you do? What would happen if you chased the puppy? I was like, well, if I chased the puppy, what would happen is they'd run away because we're playing, and we'd run around in circles. And they'd play, and they wouldn't come to me. So he said, well, it's the same thing in business. Basically, what you want to do for your customers is offer them value, things that they really value. They're important to them. Be that a service or a product, be that your time and attention, whatever it is, you're going to hold that out for them. Just invite them to come to you. That's it. There's no push. There's no prodding. There's no tricks. What's valuable to you? For example, a puppy. Do I want some snacks? Do I want a smelly, good, yummy treat? Do I want to come in and say hi and hang out with you because you love on me? Whatever it is, we offer it out. And just wait. That's the basis of true, valuable customer service. It's different. It doesn't sound like sales. What it's going to do for you is to help your customers trust you, because you're not pushing them to buy things you don't want to sell them or they don't need. You're going to offer value that they love. Just like the puppies coming to you or me for some treats or some yummy stuff or some loves. They're coming to you for healing, hope, coaching, guidance, whatever it is, but that's what they're coming for. What that does for your practice is creates more value to your customers and your clients. So when they come to you and say, hey, the shoulder over here just won't work right, and I feel hurt here, and whatever's going on, or I'm going to have surgery and I'm really anxious about it, and I need my body aligned and to be functional. My core and my energies need to be talking to each other and being good. They come to you and you provide them that service. It's fantastic. It's amazing. And you've done exactly what they wanted, but you didn't push anything. You actually just offered what they were looking for. So we're looking to bring more value to our interactions by doing these things. Now, sometimes they might need your wisdom and your experience and your training. They might need you to think about things beyond just a massage or just fixing their energy levels or just tweaking these things. They might need something to think about, like maybe after you've done what you do, they might need some crystals. They might need some supplements, for example, some turmeric to help with inflammation. They might need some meditation to help calm their mind and align their soul. Maybe yoga is a good solution for them. Maybe they're old and stiff and they need some movement coaching. I'm not talking about exercise routines or workouts. I'm talking about movement coaching, helping them learn to move their bodies in a way that helps the healing that you've done. Maybe they need those things. My question to you is, if you're the person who's helping them, why haven't you offered that or provided that guidance? Because it really is our responsibility, your responsibility as a practitioner to do that. So now we've gone from some Reiki practicing to coaching and guiding for nutrition, movement, supplements. Those things are tremendously valuable because it helps them magnify the effects of your service and your time. And it's best for the customer or the client. It really is. You've helped them get beyond just a transactional thing. You've become a coach. And you've helped them go beyond what they knew. It's important. I also say that our focus should always be on maintenance and improvement rather than repair. What do I mean? Well, going back to the auto shop. If our time was always spent, if I took my vehicle to an auto repair facility, and all they did was fix the thing I told them was wrong, and spent no time, like, making sure everything else is okay, I'm not sure I'd be happy with that. They're the experts. They're professionals. They are really good, and it's what they get paid to do. So why wouldn't we do the same thing? If a customer or client comes to you and you spend your time with them and you notice that some things are not right in various areas of their body, isn't it your responsibility as a professional and as someone who has much more knowledge than our client or customer to share that with them? And perhaps some solutions that can help them get better. Of course it is. And you know what? You wouldn't be doing what you're doing if it wasn't the way you felt. That's the key. Our jobs are not important. It's how we make money, but who cares? What's really important is that when we provide service and help client or customer move forward and solve some problems that they've been having and create some solutions for them. That's what really matters. It's really important for us as practitioners, again, to pay attention to some things that are kind of unique. Perhaps things like, what are they really asking for versus what they're saying? How do we get beyond the superficial, especially for first-time visitors? How do we get beyond the superficial symptoms to the root cause? And some things that would really help with that would be a great intake. When you bring the new customer on board, how much time are we spending understanding what's going on in their lives beyond their primary concern? The primary concern is, of course, important and needs to be addressed, but that primary concern more than likely would be a symptom of a deeper problem or challenge or situation. And if you don't spend your time figuring that out, are you really doing what's best for your customer or your client? I would say no. That's my opinion. I can be wrong. So the first step of helping customers and helping your business would be a good intake. The second is making sure you have a really good holistic approach, because it's not just about aligning an energy. There are things that go into that. Like, is their diet good for their body? Are they eating the right kind of things that help them process food, energy that is provided to us from our planet? Are we doing the proper alignment for their energies? Are their activity levels in line with what they really need? How's their physical health? What about their mental health? And their emotional health? And of course, their spiritual health. And understanding that based on what's going on in their world, it may be different. They might be a Christian or a Hasidic Jew, or they might follow the Quran and Muhammad, and understanding how do we help them with their spiritual health. They may not believe in mental health counselors, but their emotional health is very important. So how do we help that? Maybe they don't exercise. Maybe they're not really big on movement. And we know, based on what we've felt from them, that really what needs to go on is we need to help their movements become in line with what their body needs to be better. Those things are all true. So here we are. We're 20 minutes in. I'm just barely scratching the surface. But I got a couple of last points. One is compensation. And this is something that nobody really wants to talk about, especially when we're trying to help people get better, helping their situation be better. We don't want to talk about getting compensated. I get that. Because really, nobody wants to. But it's important to understand some things. One, they came to you for a reason. One, they want your time. Time is energy. How do you translate or transfer the value of that energy to somebody else so that when they come to you, they don't just walk away taking your energy and leaving with nothing? In our society, it's money, compensation, understanding that there is a give and take, because their money is a representation of their energy, the time that they've spent using their skills and abilities to help someone else. So being compensated for your time is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because it's a sharing of energy, and everything in this world is made of energy. It truly is. Also, there's your talent. Maybe you have a special link. Maybe your energies align with theirs well. And it's important for them to come to you, because when they walk into your space, their soul feels better. That's part of your talent, part of your connection to the world, and it's important to be recognized. Also, this is the time and value that is your study and learning and practice. How much work have you done in these areas? When you're going to touch or not touch a client, how much energy and time have you spent learning this? Because that's also what they're paying for, what their energy of what their values have created. If they're a mechanic or they're a healer or they're a teacher or they're whatever, they're getting compensated for their energies and their learning. It's no different than what you have done. And finally, there's the value. Now, the value is kind of an esoteric thing. It's important, but it's hard to quantify. But if I were to say to you, as, say you're a customer walking into an auto repair facility again, and you said, hey, my car's making a funny noise, and I'm worried about it. And they said, okay, great, we'll check out the noise. And they go out there, look at the noise, and it's something rattling underneath of something in the front. Whatever it is, right? Great. Nothing to worry about. Moving on. You're fine. Great. How would you feel about that experience? You just put out some money. You just put out some compensation for their time. They provided no real value because they said, it's nothing to worry about. But what if you had that same situation? You walked in and they said, well, give me an hour. Let me check it out. And they spent their time, they went through your vehicle, and they came back to you and said, well, we've got good news. That rattling noise you heard in the front of your vehicle, it was just something that needed to be lubricated. It needed to be taken care of so that it functioned better. No real problem there. We also did a full diagnostic inspection of your vehicle and found that, well, in about, depending on how you drive, you might need these in a year or two. You might need brake pads. The tires are getting worn out. Your battery's a little low. I wouldn't worry about it right now, but something to be aware of when you check out next time you come to see me. Or, hey, there's a really strong, there's a lubricant leak. Your oil's leaking out of your engine. It's really important that that's taken care of, because if you don't take care of that, your engine can fail. Now, comparing those two scenarios, which would you feel better about? I know I would feel better if I came out of that with a full understanding of what's going on with my vehicle. Because I'm not the guy. I don't do that. I don't know anything about it. So I would challenge you to do the same thing. When a client comes to you, yes, our jobs, what we're doing, how we're trying to help them, is focusing on their primary concerns, but also we need to understand that there's more than an ache in the shoulder, energy not aligned. There's more than that going on, and it's important for us to dive deeper and do more than just the basics, because when we do that, we expand our value. And when you're more valuable to a client, they come back to you again and again and again, because you have done more for them than they expected. So, from my perspective, and I know this has been kind of a rambling thing, I'm sitting by the lake and I'm really distracted, and I want to just check out and watch that water. But from my perspective, to grow your practice, I would say, please never ever think about the sales word. It's not important. But what I would say is, provide more value. Be the professional that you are. And go above and beyond whatever they expect. And help them in ways that they didn't even know existed. And you can offer all of that from inside of your practice. That's all there is. It's really that simple. I wish I had more time. I really don't. They kind of kept me on a tight timeline here. So if you have some questions, feel free to hit me up. You can talk to the customers. You can email me at drgibson71@gmail.com. And I'll do my best to help you. Other than that, I'm going to leave you with this beautiful view and hope that you have a blessed day.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Mark Schwartz. I'm the author of the Smart Consciousness blog as well as the upcoming Smart Consciousness book. And today I'd like to share with you some of the things that I've been working on that you can use in your practice to vastly amplify the good that you're able to do in your clients' lives, to reach clients that you may not have been able to reach before, and to bring in a whole new client base which may have been completely untouchable because they just weren't interested in what you had to offer. So much of interacting with people, doing good in people's lives, actually has to do with effective communication. And I say that, but I don't really like that formulation because it's more about actually reaching the people, getting through their perceptual filters, getting through their mental roadblocks, right? And actually planting a seed where it matters. We can spend endless hours talking and doing what we do and, all this hot air and writing. And if people just don't hear it, if there was no effective communication there, then it was all a waste of time. And in my experience with clients, as well as working with practitioners of all different types, the biggest problem that we have is not the lack of skills. It's not necessarily that we don't know what to do, right? Because we're able to choose our clients, so we can find people that we can do the best for, right? We can reach out and go, I know how to solve that problem. I know how to solve that problem. And I've been in a place where I know that what I have can fix that issue, and it's nothing, right? It's nothing to get through it. They just need to do what I know to do. They need to be involved in the process, right? Because we can't come in and change somebody's lives completely unless they are on board with that. They want, everyone has free will, and they need to exercise free will to get out of it. But if all they would do is just this few things, and everything would be great. And yet we see time and time again, they are in the same loop. They do the same things. We tell them, they seem to understand, right? They okay, that sounds great. And they come back and they've not changed a single thing. Or, they do some work with us and then they're not interested in it again. Or whenever they see us, they're like, wow, I should be, I don't know why I'm not there with you. I really love what we do. But, when they're gone, it seems like it's just, you'll never hear from them again. It's just so hard to get people in the loop of actually improving their lives and moving up and doing the work. And the reason why we have so much difficulty, and I think this is a particular weakness of Western culture at this time, is that we are too factual in the way that we present information, or we're too focused on the data being correct, right? We can tell people the right answer all day long, and it doesn't mean anything to them, right? It doesn't mean we want to say false things, but it means that there's more to effectively changing people's lives than just knowing what the right answer is, or knowing the facts, or knowing the data, or doing the research, right? How the human mind works is it's actually more like a giant filter than it is like an all-encompassing way of viewing data, right? So our problem as human beings is not that we are getting too much information or too little information, too little stimulus, right? The human mind, and if you've ever encountered somebody with an amazing brain, a unique brain, I know people who were able to memorize, this is a physics professor who's able to memorize every single math problem they've ever done in their career, and that's tens of thousands of them, right? And it's not that they had to sit down and do it. It's just that for some reason that filter was not there in their brain, and so if you said, okay, what was it on your final senior year 45 years ago, he could go up on the board and write the entire set of equations. Just crazy, right? But we all have that. The reason why it doesn't register in our memory is because we have perceptual filters, sometimes called the reticular activation system, right? So our reticular activation system is the blocks that we put up, and that actually makes us who we are, right? If everybody took in all information, it would be like a crazy acid trip, and there'd just be so much we wouldn't be able to function. And there would be very little difference between person to person, right? A lot of what makes somebody good at business versus artistic versus, all the different things you can be and all the different human qualities that you can have is a lot to do with the way that they filter what's coming into their brain. So an artistic person sees this and remembers those colors, and a business person sees these opportunities. There's an interesting factoid that in the Great Depression, when many people were out of work and people were starving because of it, there were a group of people that had multiple jobs. How is that possible? Well, people with the right perceptual filters are able to create amazing results because they can see the things that nobody else is seeing. All right, there's a story I heard about a billionaire, and he was born, I believe he was an orphan, or he's born in very poor circumstances in the Middle East. In his 20s, he grew up in a major company and became a billionaire, and then was eventually ejected from the country where he lived, and he had nothing. He was destitute. He goes to another country, and he builds another billion-dollar business. Like, that's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence for most people, or never in a lifetime occurrence for most people, but even most billionaires can only ever need to do it once. But why is it that so many people can't achieve anything like that, and he can? Is it because he's a genius or so much smarter? Or it's definitely not because, in this case, because he had backers or because he had the right family or anything like that. It's because he was able to go in and see the opportunities, and he thinks like his filters are like, and his brain has made his filters into the shape that allows that type of success. And so filtering, and we get into a little bit of the hardcore science here. They've actually done studies on, data gathering. So you give people facts, right? And if the facts align with the predefined perceptions that they have, so in some of these studies, there's racial biases, political biases, right? But the bias doesn't have anything to do with it necessarily. It's just the shape of their mental filters, right? And if it conforms with those shapes, then they're able to remember it and recall it and give it back to researchers exactly, right? They know those stats down cold, and they don't even have to really work at it. And the other group of people that did not have those types of biases, as they say in the study, beforehand, like, they would give them every incentive they could. They'd pay them to say, hey, just remember this few sets of stats 10 minutes from now. And the participants in the study could not do it. Right? So it's not a matter of willingness or unwillingness. People that are not aligned with what you're saying, that do not have the perceptual filter set up to hear what you're saying, will not remember it. It will go in their short-term memory and out the back, and they'll never hear it in their head again. It's like you never had the conversation. So this is an extremely powerful realization to have, right? It's not just the content of what we say, it's the quality of what we say. And so is this like there's nothing we can do? Does it mean that if somebody has a set of perceptual filters and we can't get past them ever? And I don't believe so. And here's why. And there's two reasons why I think that we can get around this as professionals in this field. The first is it's not necessarily a set of political biases or a set of particular preconceived notions that people have. A lot of it has to do with the quality of thought or the emotional content of the thought. And I'm going to get into a specific framework about how we can work through this in the second half of this talk. But to just motivate the point, if people are fearful, right, they see danger in every corner that they look, right? And there is real danger everywhere we go. I'm out here in the woods. There could be, and there definitely are wild animals out in this area. I hear them all the time, right? I could be attacked, right? We could get sicknesses. There's a real possibility that many of us are going to have serious trouble. We could get in a car accident. We can be stolen from. There's just endless possibilities. But for the people that are keyed into that, that's all they're seeing, right? And they're filtering out everything else. But for other people, where we're seeing opportunity, where we're seeing adventure, where we're seeing that there's a hope that we could be better, well, that's what we're seeing, right? We're not keying into the danger. We're seeing, isn't this a glorious day? Isn't it so beautiful out here, All right, isn't it amazing that instead of having to walk in the rain like our ancestors did for thousands of years to get from place to place, or just not getting anywhere at all, we can hop in a car and be 50 miles away in an hour? It's amazing, the world that we live in. And the only difference there is not the world, it's not the way that you were brought up necessarily, it's the filters that you have in place. And so, to bring that thought to a close, I'll say it's not the biggest difference in our filters is actually the emotional angle that we're seeing things from. So somebody that has a particular political bias is probably on a similar emotional wavelength to everybody else that has that particular bias or racial bias or whatever it is that they were studying in those studies when they did many different kinds. Right? They're usually on a particular wavelength, a particular emotional setting. And the studies have shown that people who have, all of us who have thoughts, right? We're thinking the same things over and over and over again. Most of the thoughts that we have in our brain are just the same things. We're repeating. It's like a broken record. And if you are interested in this science at all, I recommend you check out the book Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a popular book written by a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, and he goes into an interesting mechanic of the brain that he found, which is essentially that we have two levels of thinking. We have the fast thinking, which is the habitual, do the same thing over and over again thinking, which is what we highly prefer, and it's much more energy efficient. And then we have the slow thinking, where we actually have to take in new and unexpected data. And new and unexpected data is extremely stressful for us, like our cortisol and the stress hormones actually spike up. It is much more inefficient, right? We're burning literal calories in our brain every time we encounter that. And so most people structure their lives, and everybody to a certain extent, so that we just minimize the amount of new information that hits us because it's so stressful. It's so much extra work. And if you have been following the rise of certain ideologies in the past or in present times, if you've noticed, like I have, that there's just a predisposition in many of the popular ideologies out there to over-reduce everything to just one answer, right? If you have an answer, like let's say, in ancient religion, right, if the answer was it's Zeus, well then that's easy. Whenever you encounter something new, you don't have to go through that whole difficult process of re-internalizing this new information. You can just say, oh, I know what that is. And we see that, in far history, we see that recent history, the various ideologies, fascism, socialism. We see that now in so many ideologies, from every angle, right? It's not in a particular type of political field, or it's not any particular type of person. It's all ideologies tend to move in that direction because it's so convenient for making our brain not work, right? We're essentially lazy animals. We try to minimize the amount of extraneous work that we do. And so you're likely to encounter clients who have predispositions and these ideologies, which it's just so easy to dismiss what you have to say because it's easy. So how do we get past that exactly? Well, the way I like to use is the levels of consciousness map, and this was developed by Dr. David Hawkins. There are many other things out there. This is not like the Bible. It's just a set of hooks that I think are effective to use to actually key in to what's going on, right? If we don't have a name for something or a number or a pigeonhole to put things in, our brain is very, very incapable of actually retaining that information. So this is just an alphabet. It's a crutch that we can use to work more effectively. The essence of this scale is it's a series of energy set points. So it's like a spectrum, a frequency spectrum, if you will, even though there's no particular relationship between like physical vibrations that I know of with the scale. But it's interesting to think of it like the light spectrum, right? So you have one color at one end and you have another color at the other end. And the interesting analogy from this is that you actually cannot easily move from one level to the other without passing through everything in between. And so in a normal human life, you will actually go up and down different levels, different times of day, different experiences that you have, right? If you're in a wonderful vacation with your family, or you're like meditating out in a Tibetan temple or something, then you maybe will be a little higher. And then if you're in the stress of the day and work isn't going great or your business is not going great, then you may be a little lower on the scale. external impacts do affect this, but most people will have a set point that they're at, which they habitually are thinking through, right? So that's their habitual filter, habitual lens. And the majority of the human race at this time is in the lower half. And the unfortunate part about the lower half is that these energy levels or these emotional set points tend to cause behaviors which bring people down in the energy set points. So addictions, family troubles, making poor decisions, right? It pushes you down and down and down, or it resists. So if you've ever known somebody or you've been an experience yourself where, they're just trying so hard and it just seems like they're treading water and not able to get anywhere, a lot of that has to do with being in an energy, much of the time, it's being at an emotional set point where you're actually working against yourself. So you're down here in the pride and below. Now, people that are in the upper half are actually in a fortunate place where they're more likely to elicit behaviors which promote their increasing level of joy, right? And so if you read the emotions on the scale, you'll actually see that it generally feels better to be at the upper half. Now, there isn't a hard, this isn't a moral judgment of people. Because you're on the lower half of the scale, doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just like colors. We can prefer green versus blue, right? But they're really just different colors, and they are, one's not intrinsically better than the other. And in fact, viewing this scale as being one thing better than the other is actually something that indicates your particular level of emotional set point, right? And that's one of the challenges of actually being super high on the scale is you get into a place where there's not much distinction. Like nothing really matters so much because everything's good. So it's an interesting challenge point to be in. I'm not going to really go into the upper levels of the scale in this talk, mostly because many of our clients in the world in general, on average, is in the lower half. And so we're going to be working on people like that. And what I find is that many practitioners, although not necessarily in the upper half, tend to be at a higher level than the people, on this chart, no value judgment there, but just a higher place on this chart than their clients are. And it's that higher emotional set point which made you get into this practice in the first place. People at the very lowest levels of this chart are generally not able to do things like that, to seek out help in that way, to learn new skills, to actually reach out and try to help other people in their lives. It's very difficult because, fight or flight, if your life is a mess and everything seems like it's crumbling down, you're not in a place where you want to start a practice. It's just too much something else to think about. So as an initial exercise, and as I go through some of these, it would be interesting, and this is something I've done many times in the past, is actually think through where you are right now, and throughout the day after this, try to set an alarm or remember every so often, go through, okay, where am I at now? Am I at fear? Am I in pride? Am I in anger, courage, willingness? And just get a basis for where you operate normally, because with the radio analogy, if we want to communicate with our clients, we need to know where our set point is, whatever it is totally fine, and then know where their set point is, and to move down and actually speak to them in the frequency that they're listening on. So shame is the first level, and the feeling of humiliation, right? So this is just utter abject, desperation. There's just no hope. There's nothing we can do. I'm just flat on my back. That kind of feeling. And unfortunately, there's just so much of that out there. And if you work with really difficult cases, like Dave earlier in this talk with victims of psychopaths, or I've done some work with victims of narcissists, many people, the worst cases are deep into this, and it's very difficult to reach them, right? So to get into that frame, you actually have to speak to them in that language in order to give them a leg up to the next level, right? So you don't want to go to somebody in shame and talk to them about having courage, or give them good reasons, or, well, you should love your abuser, right? Doesn't mean they shouldn't, but it means if you tell that to them, it's going to go in one side and out the other. It's just not effective. So you actually have to move them up to another, still negative, negative in that it feels bad. It feels bad to have feeling of guilt, right? So in some ways, guilt is actually a step up. And so the guilt feeling is at least there's some energy there that's positive in the way that, well, I should have been better, right? Shame is just, it's over. Guilt is, at least, I'm a horrible person, but the judgment that they're horrible is actually has a glimmer of the fact that they could be good, right? If something could never have been good, there's no point in judging it, right? There's no point in feeling that guilt. And so when we reach people with that guilt, we need to talk to them in the level of their guilt, right? You don't want to refute their guilt. You don't want to, again, give them the reasons to talk about courage. What you want to do is quell that guilt into apathy. What's apathy is just the feeling of it doesn't really matter, right? And so I meet a lot of people in this level, right? They're just chugging along. They're doing what they need to do. They they go to work and then they come home and they want to just watch TV, or it doesn't matter. I don't care. That feeling, right? And so this is an energy level where you will probably find a large client base out there that's untapped because these people don't want to actually do anything. So they're not out there seeking your help. But if you can craft a message that reaches them effectively, then you can actually broadly expand your practice. And you would do this by hitting them at the level of their apathy and then moving up to grief, right? Because people who are apathetic about their life are missing out on so much. It is real that they should feel sad about what they're missing, right? There's a real reason for grief in their life, and grief is a healthy emotion when it's used productively, right? Grief is the motivating force that gets people out of apathy and up to the levels where they're able to experience a fuller and richer life if they choose to. So now that we've got people in grief, the next level up is fear, right? So I'm not saying you need to put the fear of whatever, the fear of God into your clients, or the talk to them about doom and gloom, but there should be a real moving up from grief into fear. There should be a real sense that what I do has consequences, right? I could actually make a mistake, or maybe I've already made a mistake. Maybe there's no possible way that I can get out of this, right? Because now they're thinking about the positive potential outcomes. Grief is I've lost, and I'm sad about it. Fear is, what happens if this is forever, right? Because now there's a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this isn't forever. And now when you reach people in fear, now's the time for desire. And desire is another area that you see a lot of people in our, in modern society. This is people that want, they want to consume, they want things, they want, beautiful spouses, they want to be the millionaire in the mansion. And so there's a lot of this going around. And you can have very wealthy people in desire, you can have very poor people in desire, right? It doesn't have anything necessarily to do with their actual physical circumstances. It just has to do with what their emotional state is, right? So now in fear to desire, you're actually not afraid. You're thinking, I could get this. I want that. That is something I could have, and I want it. And that is a wonderful place to be. Now we've got some energy, right? So now people are in motion. They're doing things. They're thinking. They're adjusting their life. And so if you've been able to get somebody from fear or grief or apathy even up to desire, that's a wonderful place to be in. And, there may be many of us here that are in a state of desire now, and there's nothing wrong with that state. It's a wonderful jumping off point to the next level, which is actually anger, right? So, and it seems strange, so we went from fear to desire and then to anger, is that really better? And in many ways, yes. Now it's still not in the upper, generally productive side of the emotional scale, but anger is what actually gets us out of the desire state, right? So now we're kind of mad that we don't have the things that we want to have, right? And so we've actually gone from, well, maybe I can have this, to, why don't I have this? I should be the one with this. What's happened? Why is it not going my way? And so this anger is yet another higher emotional state, right? So desire is, or let's say an activity state. So when you desire something, it might be a passive, oh, that would be great. This is on my vision board. But anger, you're like, this is now. Why is this not now? This needs to be happening now. And so getting that energy and activity up even one more step is huge, because we're right on the verge of pride. And so pride is, pride comes before a fall. We think of it as a negative emotion, but above all this, pride is actually really beneficial, excuse me, to get your clients into, because pride means you hold yourself to a standard. Pride means you have, some code that you live by, some morals. I don't do this, I keep myself to this condition. And it's still kind of a vain thing, but it's way better than being in the, the abject poverty and abject fear, right? Now you're starting to set levels for how you interact. And it's not about what other people tell you to do. It's not about getting by. It's about you define the level where you're at, where you choose to be, and you're holding yourself to that standard. And that is the breaking point, right? Because now we're onto this upper half into courage. And when we're courageous, we're thinking, okay, I can deal with this. It's not about, and that's maybe one of the biggest differences between the upper half and the lower half. The lower half, you're looking outwards for these things. People are in grief because of things that happen to them. They're in guilt because of things that happen to them. They're angry because of things that did or didn't happen to them, right? But love, real true love, reason, acceptance, all these things have nothing to do with the outside. It's coming from us. So the upper half is from us outward, and the lower half is from outward in. And pride is the thing that gets us over that. So I think this has been a really powerful introduction, and I highly encourage you to try to use this with your clients. So when you work with somebody, what I always try to do is think quickly, what level of this chart are they on right now? And if you can't tell, work in some questions, let them be the guide, and think of things that you can ask them that are relevant to what you're doing that would illuminate this, understanding. And say, so when you start talking to them, you can come in from exactly the level that they're at, start talking to them in terms of fear, in terms of grief, in terms of apathy, and then kick it up one notch. Right? That's all you can do, because people everybody has complete control over their own emotional state, right? That's one of the few things that we actually get to control about the world that we're in. Everyone has free will, but our response to things is part of our free will. So we can't be, little dictators and tell our clients this is how you should think or this is what the right thing is, right? They've already made a choice, whether consciously or unconsciously, to be at that level. So we need to honor that choice, talk to them in that level, and hopefully some of the gems that we're passing get through to the way that they're thinking, and they maybe will register and choose, okay, I'm going to go the next one up, or maybe two up, right? And just keep an eye on what they're doing and follow them up and bring them as high as they want to go and as high as you want to take them. And so this is a super powerful technique. I'm glad that you all came through this with me. And again, if you have would like to know more, I have tons of writings up on smartconsciousness.com, more to come. So I'd love to see you all there, and thanks for listening.
Well, using sexual energy to power your business. People are probably thinking, what a bizarre title. What on earth is she even talking about? Of course, to most businesses, sexual energy has a bad reputation. People think of sexual harassment lawsuits. They think of people in the office having affairs, loss of productivity, general problems. There's very few businesses that would think of sexuality as being a positive thing. Now, in society in general, sexuality and sexual energy has a pretty bad reputation, It's even associated, and understandably, of course, it is involved in a lot of crimes. But I want to argue here that it's not actually the sexual energy that is at fault, it's what people are doing with it, but more to the point, the fact people don't know what to do with it. Now, sexual energy is literally what creates us. We're created out of sexual energy. We wouldn't exist and be here without it. So can it really be that bad a thing? Now, of course, Western science doesn't understand sexuality too well. And given the fact that Western science does come out of Christianity, which hasn't always had the most positive attitude towards sexuality is no surprise. I think part of it is that they just don't really, they don't really want to start delving into it, almost for fear of sort of accusations of being inappropriate and so on, But then also you have the fact that sexual energy is an energy, which all gets like a little bit woo-woo and a bit sort of alternative medicine and so on, and they don't really want to start, going there. So, well, lucky for us, we have some systems of science from other parts of the world that actually have quite a good understanding of sexual energy. Of course, the one of those that is the most famous is Tantra. Now, in Tantra, people talk about having this slow kind of tantric sex where you're sitting cross-legged sort of around each other and you meditate together while having sex. And your whole brain opens and you're literally enlightened and can sort of connect with the universe in this amazing experience called a Kundalini awakening. Of course, the tantric experience sounds really amazing, but to get a little bit more of an understanding about what I'm actually talking about, let's have a look at Taoism. So if we go from India across the mountains into China, we find a similar tradition called Taoism, which basically built up over thousands of years in China. Now, Taoism is basically a science of energy, and Taoists were obsessed with how we could get more energy and become healthier. Now, one of the things they figured out was energy meridians and how we can actually meditate and move to activate and open up our energy meridians to increase our health and vitality. They were even obsessed with the whole idea of immortality and this sort of idea that you could actually extend your life or perhaps even live forever by learning to understand your energy and tap into it. Now, one of those energies that they found was very, very important to balance was our emotional energy. So our emotions, obviously they are ways we can lose huge amounts of energy if we just get it into sort of like excess and we start to basically experience extreme, for example, anger, extreme fear, even extreme joy. These can all be drained on our energy. Another kind of energy that they were very, very interested in was sexual energy. Now, this is how Taoists describe sexual energy, and this is basically what my argument today is based on. So, imagine the sexual energy. Me, as a woman, I produce eggs every month, so I'm producing them for 20, 30 years at least, probably even getting on for 40, I could be producing these eggs. And yet, how many children do I actually have? How many of these eggs do I have to use? And how many of the hormones do I use? Now, of course, every month my body is going through this cycle where my breasts are developing and changing, my ovaries are producing eggs and so on. Yet most of this energy is actually being wasted. And even worse than that, a lot of this energy actually can cause health problems. So we all know about premenstrual problems, period pains and so on, which essentially are caused by hormonal imbalances, which cause women to start to experience like negative feelings around their menstruation, but there's even sort of, cancers that are caused actually by imbalanced hormones. So, sorry, that was my dog down there. So, what can we do about this energy? And what did the Taoists realize? Of course, we can see that men have the same energy, and that in males it can really take on quite a toxic form as they get such strong feelings of sexual frustration, which even leads, as I mentioned at the beginning, to things like rape, because people actually just have no idea how to handle their sexual energy. So, now, let's look at the way the Taoists understood this. And this, by the way, it comes from acupuncture, Chinese medicine. It's not just a tiny little niche idea. This is all the Chinese medicine used all over the world carries this same idea in it. So, The sexual energy, the Taoists would call Jing. It's our life force energy, and it basically comes from the perineum. Now, sexual energy, like any energy, can get stuck. Now, what can cause sexual energy to get stuck? Well, believe it or not, when we are told your sexuality is shameful, you should hide it, and so on, this actually causes our body to tense, so the sexual energy gets stuck in the perineum. Now, what the Taoists realized was that it was essential for our health, for our longevity, for the sexual energy to rise up our bodies and into our hearts. So in our hearts, it would combine with the natural energy of love that's living there anyways. It would amplify our ability to love and to love ourselves, of course. And it would even create this healing energy. So as the two combined, which they actually call the blue energy is the orgasmic energy, the red energy is the love energy. And as they combine together, this energy actually amplifies, spreads out into our cells and starts to heal our body literally on a cellular level. Now that's the first thing that this energy does, but we still will probably have more energy left over. You see that we have actually so much of this Jing energy, so much of this sexual energy. And of course, the first thing we need to do is heal our body. Of course, the most important thing is that we're healthy. But once we've finished healing, this energy can then start to become creative energy. Now, I'm going to just talk a little bit about myself and how I got into all this stuff. So, when I got into all this stuff, I had no idea about any of this, turning your sexual energy into creativity and so on. But I had sexual problems, so I wasn't having orgasms, I wasn't feeling anything when I had sex. And I just realized at some point that I wasn't actually experiencing anything like what I should have been experiencing. Sorry about that. Panda. So, I went on this journey of sexual self-discovery, and of course I started at my doctor, but my doctor was really dismissive of my anorgasmia, just telling me that was just, how it was, but just what I had to accept to live with. And I was looking, but even in those days you didn't have so much the internet and so much information as you did now. So I was really lucky to find myself in this esoteric bookshop where I picked up a book called Cultivating Female Sexual Energy by Mantak Chia. I bought the book and I took it home and I started to read about these Taoist exercises where you could, for example, massage your breasts, and through massaging your breasts you could release these hormones that you weren't using and literally send them to your glands, to your endocrine system, and actually use these hormones to basically regenerate your glands. Now, a lot of our aging process is actually to do with when our glands start to deteriorate. So that's the reason why you might get one 40-year-old who just looks absolutely amazing and full of energy, the next who looks like they're dying, because literally their glands, and in particular the thymus gland, which is right in the chest just above the heart, is deteriorating. Now, of course, we all know someone can go from looking really bad to looking really good again, especially if they start feeling better, taking better care of their bodies and so on. So absolutely. Well, I mean, if I look at a picture of myself before I used to do this, I probably looked older actually than I do now. But it was more than that, because at that time I had done a law degree. I didn't really get into it. I'm glad I didn't get into it, but I was kind of flitting from here to there, doing a bit of this, bit of that, but there was not really any kind of focus into it, Now, I ended up reading some more books, going to some workshops, learning about my energy. And then I learned how to actually start to create a relationship with my sexual energy, which was basically coming out of my ovaries and coming out of my womb. In a man, they'd be coming out of the testicles. And instead of viewing that sexual energy sometimes even as my enemy, so a cause of frustration, maybe causing me to get into relationships that weren't benefiting me and so on, I started to learn to start meditating and circulating and moving this energy up into my body. Now, it was quite a dramatic journey of a few months that I went through, and eventually I started actually really feeling this energy coming up my body, and my body vibrating, quite, visibly vibrating with the energy. But what was really more important after that time is that, I can say, first of all, my body healed. I was getting chronic back pain every day. I was having insomnia. I was having anxiety. And when I started doing this, those problems seemed to just dissipate. Especially the most dramatic part was the back pain just disappearing. It must have been some kind of blocked energy that was essentially, stopping me from, feeling good in my body. But it wasn't just that about the feeling good in my body. It was actually stopping me from being able to be creative and see my way ahead and do basically, what was my destiny to do in this lifetime. Well, since that time, I'm now an entrepreneur. After I finished my degree in Chinese medicine, I went on to study other kinds of modalities of healing, and I've now created like my own system of working with people around their emotions, their sexual energy, and their vitality, and literally their creativity. Now, most people will think, okay, a sex coach should just tell you about positions or which lube to use and so on, but there's a lot more to our sexual energy than just thinking, actually, how can we have an orgasm? So what I actually learned and what actually happened to me, one really big thing that I learned is that you can actually meditate with your sexual energy. You can bring it up into your body. And for example, if I've met someone and I'm starting to feel turned on by them, I'm starting to feel a connection and so on, and I'm maybe in the past I would have just slept with them. What I now realize is I can actually move that energy up. So instead of it feeling a sexual frustration or a horniness, I can actually bring it into my body and literally transform it, as crazy as it sounds, into love or self-love. And we can have a connection together. But now that I've learned a little bit more about, being more careful with my sexual energy and not just expending it with someone in an unconscious way, I've now found out that I can actually really, connect with someone and actually, be creative and do things together without the sex actually becoming like problematic, basically. So how would you implement this in your business, for example? Okay, now I don't know if you've ever heard of the term shadow work. So shadow work, the idea with shadow work is that we all have shadows. We all have kind of aspects of ourselves, aspects of our, of who we are that we feel ashamed of. It might be, I'm ashamed of my anger. This is a very, very common shadow that people are ashamed of. And of course, sexuality is a really common shadow as well. So I often find even people that, for example, maybe their assistant has got, charge of their email or something like that, and they actually don't want to, they don't want me to send them an email. They don't want people to know that they're coming to see me, but how different is it to go to a sex therapist than to go to a dentist, In fact, you can almost say that this sex therapist thing is actually like more important, because our sexuality isn't just about feeling horny, feeling pleasure. It's intrinsically about who we are. So the first thing is, I actually think it's important not to push sexuality into shadow in your business. I think it's important that it's something to talk about and be open about. Now, I'm not talking about inappropriate sexual conversation. I actually think that those kind of inappropriate sexual conversations come out as a result of pushing into the shadow sexuality. I think that having intelligent conversations and meaningful conversations about sexuality, and of course, making sure that women feel comfortable, that women feel empowered to talk about things, to say things. I think it's really, really important. Now, there's some very simple ways that we can start implementing this. But of course, let's remember, this is not something unnatural. This is not like we're teaching our employees to stand on their heads. We're actually teaching them to start using a process that exists in their body already. So Now, being aware, of course, of the fact that actually the sexual energy can travel up into our bodies, it can travel up into our hearts, it can grow our ability to love ourselves, which makes us healthier and it makes us more productive. This is the thing that really, really is key to remember. Now, one of the really great ways of moving it, so in Taoism we talk about the idea that wherever your attention goes, the energy flows. Now, they also talk about the fact we have two energy centers relating to the sexuality. So we have the heart center in the heart, and in front of basically where the womb is on the woman, we have the sexual center. So the idea is we want to pull that energy from the sexual center up into our hearts. Now, by shutting our eyes and looking inside into our hearts, we actually connect with our hearts and are able to send energy there. And the best way to do this is to shut our eyes and smile. Sending smiling, loving energy into our hearts. What this does is it increases the energy in our hearts, which means it increases the electromagnetic field of our heart, and it then invites the sexual energy to move up into our hearts. Now, this will work well on someone who's quite relaxed and quite open. And I will say, as part of this, it is actually important that your employees are exercising as well. You know, even introducing some short exercises in the office, for example, you know, even just 10 minutes of exercising, maybe a few minutes at lunch, you know, getting people, for example, to shake off, to move around, to move all their joints and so on, makes a huge difference. Now, if someone's feeling a lot of unprocessed negative energy, so it's in particular, this relates to unprocessed emotions, repressed emotions. So it may affect someone more who actually isn't showing very much emotions than someone who is very emotional. So this can also be an issue that there's basically like people that have a lot of sort of like negative energy. Panda, quiet. This can also be an issue if you have people with panda, quiet, panda. So this can also be an issue when we have people who are just storing a lot of emotions, a lot of traumas in their body. Especially this tends to be the case with men, because the sexual energy of males is just more volatile than it is with women. But of course you can have the issue with women as well. And it really does actually take like some degree of like a positive mindset and feeling positive about things for this to work. So this is why it's also important to have, you know, in your business, a kind of listening ear to people, that if someone is talking about issues that they're having, to really make sure that they actually feel listened to, you know, even providing, for example, like counselors or listeners in some kind of way to your company, so that people can really feel like that they're able to talk about things. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of the practice of semen retention. I know that it was popular with Steve Jobs talked about it, and that he would not ejaculate, and that he would meditate with his sexual energy, and basically use that to put it into his business. Now, of course, you don't need to start telling your employees what they can and cannot do with their sexual energy, although of course you can tell them that this is an option to try, but to actually encourage your employees to basically have a positive relationship with their sexuality. So rather than seeing it as a thing that is harmful and it's negative, actually showing them what it is as a pure life-giving force, and a force that that really can actually be used to make ourselves feel better, to make ourselves more productive, healthier, and of course to channel it into our creativity, which is what we are creating when it comes to creating our businesses.
Hi, this is Bob Law with comments from the study. I'm in the library today. My subject for you today is getting back on track with your business. Wow, you've done a good job. You've suffered through the worst part. You started your business, you had it running, been up for 2 years. 2 years, congratulations, and that's great because in the first year, 95% of businesses that start, they fail. They fail for all kinds of reasons, but you've made it through at least 2 years, and now congratulations, you're a success. But and you've put out fires. You've had several sleepless nights. I know I have businesses of my own, but now it seems like it's a chore for you to get up and go and open up the business. So what do? Well, number one, take a break. Yeah, take a break. Most of the time you're just flat exhausted. Your brain is exhausted from working too much. Your physical body is exhausted, and just so take a break. Sit back and enjoy your family. Go for a short vacation. Take a short vacation. 3 days at least to get away from the business of the day. Now, some of you may say, not now. I can't afford to take a break. You actually can't afford not to take a break, and here's why. Your business is your investment. Your investment is in your life, and so you can't afford to not take a break because even God rested on the seventh day. So you have to rest sometimes, and so go someplace for the weekend. And don't think about the business. Don't think about the business at all. Think about how well you're going to be rested. Have fun with your family. Get some sleep. Sleep until you're done sleeping for a day or two. See how that works out for you. Have fun with your family. Do something that's physically exerting, but not mentally exerting. Okay? So on the last day of your break, here's what I want you to do. I want you to read your mission statement. This is your why. You don't have a mission statement? Oh, you need to get one. Why did you get into business? Why did you do what you did? To try to earn money. So when you did get into business and you had your mission statement and you got started and you started to have money rolling in, remember the feelings of success. Even that first dollar you made is a success. Remember the feelings that you had on that first day when you had a success. Now, after you've listened to read your statement, I want you to listen to some positive thinking tapes. Positive thinking tapes or CDs, a drive time university, if you will. So, start listening to your drive time university every day. Every day. At least 30 minutes a day. Even master motivators, listen to positive programs. They listen to other motivators. They've read books like Think and Grow Rich. They've listened to tapes and CDs like Think and Grow Rich. All kinds of individuals. Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen. They all listen to motivational speakers of their own. Okay? So sometimes you have to, if you've made a tape, if you've made a CD, you need to listen to it yourself. Because sometimes we start doubting ourselves. And so we need to start listening to ourselves in a positive manner. So if you've made a positive CD, do it. So now that you've listened to this Drive Time University, go back to work. Go back to work and see if you have the same outlook. It's got to be better than the one you left. And so a lot of times you'll find out that when you go back, everything went okay while you were gone. And all you needed was a little rest. Your employees, your faithful employees, would take over for you and answer questions. And if they ran into problems, they would either table it until you got back or handle it the best way they knew how. And I'm sure that you're going to find out that all is well. And now, if all is not well, you may have some choices to make. You may have to make some choices to hire some more people. You may have to fire some people. You may have to retrain some people, implement new programs that you'd thought about while you were listening to your Drive Time University. Hopefully, all these ideas are stuck in your mind so that you can utilize them when you get back. Implement these new programs. You may have to retrain. You may have to retrain yourself. And that's a hard reality that, geez, now that I've had a rest, I look at it, wow, I need to retrain myself. And so then the third option is to, and it's the last ditch, you may have to just get out of the business because this may not be the business for you. It may have been a good idea at the beginning when you started, but it may not be the business for you. So that's why it's hard for you to go to work. It's hard for you to get up in the morning and try to open the business and keep it going. So the bottom line is you've started your business on a dream. Keep that dream alive. Do what it takes to keep it going. What it may take to keep it going is to get a consultation from, somebody. You may have a financial or a marketing problem or situation. Well, go to a consultant for that particular situation. Sometimes the small fee that they charge will be worth twice, maybe 5 times more than what you paid for it, at least. And if you do good to somebody, then what's going to happen is that's going to return to you 100-fold. So you never know what a good consultation can do for you until you've had one. Or you may have to, in another case, find a partner. Get a partner that is good in the areas that you don't think you're very good in. And as you grow, you're going to get stronger in those areas too. So don't let anybody steal your dreams. That is the bottom line. You've dreamed it. You've brought it out of the ethers, out of the universe, to make it a solid business and an idea. So don't let anybody steal that dream. There's dreamers have been in the past all over the world. Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the light bulb, that was a dream. Henry Ford, driving a car, a mass-produced car, that was a dream. All right, he followed his dream, and no matter what it took, he went ahead and tried to make that dream come true. Buckminster Fuller, he followed his dreams. Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, Richard Paul Evans, they're following their dreams of doing what they want to do. And so you, right there, yes, that's you sitting here listening, you can make your dreams come true. Don't let anybody steal your dreams. Nobody. Don't let anybody steal your dreams. And so that's it. This is Bob Law talking to you from the study on some business comments. Hope to see you soon. You have a good day. Bye.
Hello, I hope you're having an amazingly blessed day. Today, we're going to be having the opportunity to share with you some of the interesting things that we've been able to help individuals with. My husband and I have been running a nonprofit since 2005. We've had the wonderful blessings of being able to work with individuals with special needs and circumstances. Sometimes there are some challenges that individuals have to learn a new and different way than the average person how to earn a revenue and be self-sufficient. One of our specialties is creating businesses around people's gifts and talents. So we'd like to share with you some of those special things that we've been able to do in assisting individuals and how you can use that as a way to help monetize and expand your business by creating an opportunity to help individuals with special needs to be self-sufficient. So first, we're going to really focus on individuals who have autism. There are different spectrums of autism. One of the things that you'll find is based on the severity of the autism creates an opportunity for people to learn how to do things differently. So say you have an individual who doesn't like to be around the public, doesn't like to go into the grocery store or something like that. We have an individual who we've been blessed to have in our life for several years now, who, when we first met her, was very, very shy and afraid of kind of going into public, was very withdrawn. And out of the blue, we figured out that she really loved to draw. So we started using that creativity and found out that she's very, very talented. So her passion was to use art in a way that she would just copy what other people did. She really she wouldn't do things on her own. She didn't come up with her own ideas and things. So she basically took the concepts that she saw somewhere else and she could blow it into a mural. So what we did was we tested her with different techniques, modalities. Some were oil paints, water paints. We started sharing with her even clay, different types of things for her to be able to be creative with. And then we found that she loved making and giving gifts. When you're able to find what an individual's hot button is, you're able to use that as a tool to be able to help them monetize. I met a young gentleman, I believe he's in his mid-20s, maybe late 20s, and he's autistic and incredibly gifted at putting puzzles together. So we came up with the idea of taking a camera and doing time-lapse photography of him putting puzzles together because he's crazy fast at it, just amazingly speedy. So by using the time-lapse photography, then those recordings can be sold along with the puzzles that this gentleman puts together so that it's a way to create revenues for him. Now, there was two different concepts we came up with. One is to obviously do the time-lapse photography so that the person buying the puzzle can either have the puzzle put together already with the time-lapse photography, or they can have the puzzle apart. Either way, the box is going to be signed by the artist, and they're going to be able to see that the puzzle was put together by him, and it's a way to create revenues for this gentleman. that otherwise wouldn't be able to have a revenue source of income for himself. So we're going to share with you some other ways. When you have an individual who's talented in art, you can monetize their gifts for them. Understand that with your business, you can create a revenue as well by being an affiliate and selling the products that the individuals are talented at making, whether it's art, whether it's putting puzzles together at a high speed rate, whether they're great with numbers. And there's so many different things that you can do when finding gifts and talents that individuals have. So when we are searching for those, it's really important that the individual feels in a very happy space. You don't want it to be forced. You don't want it to be put in a way that they have to do this. You want to create an environment that's joyful. And by finding all the things that they love to do, sometimes they like color, sometimes they like sounds, sometimes they like no sound at all. So you have to tap in to what it is that particular individual feels comfortable with being around. There are certain sounds that are very high beat, have a rhythm that's very similar to a heartbeat, and it's intense, but it's incredibly calming for some individuals that are autistic. So these are some different things that you can look into. Now, when you're looking at finding ways to monetize their gifts and talents, it's very, very important that you get a hold of resources that you can share with your client's caregiver. Because one day, heaven forbid, but it's going to happen, there's only two things we can do in life: pay taxes and pass away. So when that happens, caregivers are always concerned about what they can do to help their loved one to be sure that they're taken care of once they've passed on. Well, one of the things that's very beneficial is to gather resources in your local area that are beneficial as far as building trust, things like that you can put on your website that you know is going to be beneficial for your clients, so that as they're building, I know that the laws are very specific about individuals that are on Social Security. They actually can earn income, but it has to be tracked and monitored, and it's a percentage of what they earn affects their check. However, they're earning much more money than what they would if they were on Social Security. And they're having a great time and enjoying life and becoming contributing citizens to society. So it's a way for them to be self-sufficient financially by using their gifts and talents. So if you're able to put together on your website different resources that are beneficial for your clients, then the clients that you work with, the caregivers are going to be so excited because you're bringing more value to them. And that's the key thing. Individuals that you're working with, their caregivers are always looking for resources that can benefit the individuals that are in their care. Whether it's a son, a daughter, a child caring for a parent, it doesn't matter. They're always looking for a way to create an opportunity for security for their loved one for the future. So please make sure that you look at the resources in your local area. Of course, you can go to Social Security Administration, and they'll be glad to walk you through the process of what's necessary to assist individuals with special needs. And they'll give you links and different things that you can use to put on your website that's more information that you can offer to your clients and the base of who you work with. Now, one of the things that I'd like to share with you is about how do you create opportunities for the caregivers to find the gifts and talents that their loved one or the person they're taking care of has. Well, one of the things that we found that was very helpful was to give them opportunities to try a wide variety of things, whether it's art, whether it's music. We have a young lady who is a deaf mute that we've worked with for several years that actually has an amazing ability. She's very rhythmic, and she would do rapping and all sorts of stuff, even though she's completely, profoundly deaf and cannot hear sound. She loves the motion and the movement of what she saw. So one day we had a piano, and she wanted to learn to play the piano. So this is a talent that we're working on developing because it's something new that she wants to experience. And shortly after we were introduced to the concept, at first it was kind of like, well, how is she going to play and be able to make it where it's enjoyable for other people? Well, she's very rhythmic and enjoys it because she's so artistic, not autistic, though she is, but she loves art, every type, drawing, painting, sketches, clay, sanding, wood burning. All these different things are different revenues that she has now coming in for herself. When she had a desire for the music, we actually met another young man who's deaf that was playing the piano in church. And when I found out that he was deaf, I was like, are you kidding me? How? And he's been deaf all of his life. He's never heard music, but he understood the concepts of the notes. So people who are really gifted with numbers, there's a high probability that they'll be very good with music. So you might want to tap into that resource as well as another way to expand their gifts and talents that they didn't even know they had. So I actually was blind for 16 years. I was given a medication after a really bad automobile accident, and I ended up going completely blind for 16 years. 2 years ago, God blessed me with my sight back after taking some nutraceuticals, and it took the scar tissue off my eyes. No help from the doctors, all Heavenly Father. So the reason I share that with you is because as an individual who lived a life of being blind for 16 years, I found that just because I was blind, it was frustrating because people thought I couldn't do things. And I was like, well, I'll show you. So what I did was I started finding creative ways to do things that were different. Now, granted, it took me longer to accomplish some of the things, but I was still able to do them. So what might take somebody else an hour to do, I can assure you it was going to take me 3, 4, maybe 5 hours or a day or two to accomplish. But when I was finished, the excitement that I had was over the top because I was like, yeah, I was able to do it. Well, that's one of the reasons why I got involved with doing the things that we do with our organization, was finding ways to help people to find joy in their life. And then when we realized that people were interested in the talents and gifts that the individuals we worked with had the ability to do, we figured, hey, why not find a way to bless them so they can be self-sufficient in the future? And that's exactly what happened. So let me make sure I've got all my information here that I want to cover for you. We did cover about trust, so make sure that you contact somebody in your local area that knows about the trust laws in your state. Obviously, lawyers are great, and if you go to them, a trust lawyer, and you tell them what you're doing and you'd like to put their resources on your website, then that's another way that you can get affiliate income from. You can say, look, for every referral that I give you through our process, we'd like to have a referral of an affiliate fee. And they are more than glad to do that. You would be amazed. The other thing is, when you're building your website, you want to make it user-friendly. Make sure that it's accessible to phones, because just because you build it on a computer doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be accessible on a phone. So make sure that every website that you build is ADA compliant for all accessibilities, not just those with, that can hear and speak and all that, but for individuals who are deaf that has the speech reader on it, the people who are blind that has the people who are blind, it has the speech reader, and the folks who are deaf, it has the script across the bottom of what's being said. It's called closed caption. There's a button that you can push when you're doing recordings that makes whatever you're saying closed caption. So this is a benefit to everybody, because sometimes you have people who are just a little bit, have a hard time seeing, and it's very beneficial to them as well. I'd like to thank you for your time today. I hope that this has been a blessing for you. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact us at yourfamiliesfuture.org. That's yourfamilies, FAMILIES, future.org. We look forward to working with you and assisting you in any way we can. Have an absolutely blessed day.
Hi, this is David again. We spoke about sales for a practitioner from the lake cabin not too long ago. I thought I'd drop another message here real quick. Just wanted to get some things that are burning in my heart to share with y'all, and wanted to understand that what I'm saying about sales is not really about sales. It's really about providing value to your customers. And I know it sounds like a cliche, and it's not real. It's not what makes sense to people. But here's the thing. Your customers, your clients, they are important people. They have needs. They have pains. They have things that need to be fixed. And I would say to you without a doubt that I would rather you spend your time figuring out how to help them and then figure out how to make sure you're okay as far as compensation, then figuring out, then going and saying, I've got a plan to make money here. Because it's not about it's not about the money. Things that we do for people, especially in this world, especially as messed up as this world is, and as much time and effort is spending is to sucking every freaking dollar out of every transaction is in this world right now. And especially after all the time that these people have spent locked down, can't communicate, can't connect, can't have their energy shared with another person, because that's the healing force of human interaction is tremendous, and it has not been allowed to happen for fear of health for a long time, for over a year. So, and if you hear the noise, that's a river over there playing with a toy that she's running by. She's over there running around. But as I said, it hasn't been allowed to happen for a year plus, year and a half, almost 2 years now. I know in my soul, I miss that communication, that time connecting with people. And I miss the charge of energy that I got out of that. That all being said, it's really important for us as practitioners and people who believe in that the energy heals, helps, to get to the point that we focus on our customers first and our clients first and helping them first. We do that well. We make sure they feel good, they enjoy the process, they understand that there's hills and valleys involved in that. Do that first. And then focus on making sure that you're still around to provide that service later on. That's very important. Because if you can't do that, if you don't figure out a way to stick around and be able to provide the service, feed yourself, feed your family, give yourself enough time and energy to recharge and to heal your energy yourself and balance yourself out before you can give back to another. An empty glass cannot fill another. It's important you take care of yourself first. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just make sure that while you're doing what you do, you don't drain your own energy to the point where you can't function, that you focus on making sure that you're overflowing with energy and with love and peace, and understand that sometimes that means that your time is spent in other places than providing services to others. Just because you're not actively with a customer or a client doesn't mean you're not actively strengthening yourself and your craft, so that when you are with that person, you can give them the very best of what you are and what you have to offer. And it's okay to expect to be compensated accordingly to that. I know this is the day before, this is the night before the event, and all the training is going to go out to you, and you're going to have an opportunity to see all this. But I hope, maybe, if I get this to in time, you might be able to see this. Right at the end, maybe not. I was just struck with this, that it's important for me to share with you. It's really important that your self-care is as strong or stronger than the care you provide to others. And your self-care, especially when you are the well source and the resource for others, is as important or more important than their care, because you are helping them. And you need to be in a place that you can give them the things that they need. And it is okay to make sure that your compensation balances out, that their exchange of energy and compensation of however that looks, be money or time or energy, whatever that looks like, it's got to be commensurate, because you need to be able, in a place of surplus, to give them what they need. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm saying. I wish you well. Have a great day.